Over the past few years, the Lord packs for Warhammer 2 have provided us with many great characters, with some equally great mechanics. There is Ikit Claw and his Forbidden Workshop, Eltharion and his Batcave, Grom's Cooking School, Throt's Mutations system, and many more besides. These additional mechanics, which sit on top of the systems for the respective races, help make their campaigns more interesting, fun to play, and unique. If every Lord just had the base game mechanics for their race, with just a few different bonuses to a few stats, then the Lord packs would not have been as popular as they have been. If we look at the Lords that don't have any unique mechanics, and just have those that are standard for their race, and then compare them to those that do have their own systems, we would likely see in most cases that those with additional mechanics would be the most played. Let's take a look at the Skaven, who I think represent this disparity quite well, as they have 6 Lords, half of which have no real unique mechanics, and half of which have some amazing unique systems. The poor souls that don't have anything are Skrulk, Queek, and Tretch. While each have their own starting positions in vastly different areas of the map, and give bonuses to specific units to encourage their use, they all pretty much play the same way from turn to turn. You don't have the opportunity to formulate plagues for release into the wild, you don't get to polish your collection of skulls from enemies defeated, and you don't get to play around with whatever Tretch would do. Interlude for a shameless plug here. If you do want to play with some additional mechanics for Lord Skrulk and for Tretch, then you can check out my mods. The Plagues of the Liber Bubonicus adds a system similar to Ikit Claw's Forbidden Workshop, allowing you to upgrade Clan Pestilence units and work towards 2 new plague abilities for use in battle. For Tretch, there is the Chieftain of the Deep Warrens, which allows for the enhancement of the offensive and defensive abilities of your Storm Vermin, and introduces a new mechanic where you can proclaim any race you have defeated in battle as your nemesis for 13 turns, gaining bonuses against them, but penalties against all other races. If you enjoy the Skaven and are looking to make your campaigns for Skrulk and Tretch a little more interesting, why not give them a try? And if you're not a fan of the Skaven, but are more of a stout supporter of the Dwarves, then check out the Hammer of Gruggany mod, which adds several new campaign mechanics to the individual Dwarf Lords, and the race as a whole. It's a mod that I'm quite proud of. Okay, shameless plug over, let's get back to the video. With those Lords who are lucky enough to have their own mechanics, there is a whole extra layer to your campaign, additional goals to work toward, and new ways to enhance your armies. Let's take Ikit Claw's Forbidden Workshop as an example. This was perhaps the first truly fleshed out unique mechanic for a Lord, giving the player the ability to improve specific units related to Ikit Claw's playstyle, and to work toward mid and long-term goals. As you invest in upgrades to specific units, then you not only gain bonuses for them, but also work towards unlocking additional bonuses for your faction. The cherry on top of the system is the Doom rockets that can be engineered as you invest warpstone and food in the workshop. It's a great system that gives the player plenty of choices, has meaningful impact on the units, and has some great longer term goals. A great standard for Lord mechanics, I think. Deathmaster Snicketch also has an interesting system, allowing the player to send characters on missions across the map to gain experience, bonuses to stats, and favour with the other Skaven clans. While I feel it's not as good as Ikit Claw's system, it's still quite enjoyable and powerful. Finally, there is Throt the Unclean, the last Skaven added to Game 2, who has a complex mutagenics lab where you can experiment with enhancements to your characters. This can be a lot of fun and can lead to some very dangerous units. These mechanics certainly make the campaigns for these Lords more interesting than their counterparts. I wouldn't like to imagine the game without them. So why am I harping on about the haves and have-nots in regards to individual mechanics for Lords in Warhammer 2? Well, I was expecting, and perhaps rather foolishly, that every Lord in Warhammer 3 including those that come with the base game, to have their own unique mechanics to help set them apart from the other lords of their race. After having seen the mechanics added for the newer lords in Game 2, I thought that Creative Assembly would have realised that the lords in Game 3 would also benefit from their own systems. Instead, we have basic stat adjustments and some minor system changes to set the lords apart. While that will be fine at launch, and for some time after, I think it will hurt the base game lords in the long run. This is not to diss the mechanics that have been revealed for the races as a whole, as I think that some of these are absolutely fantastic, and a step up from the core race mechanics we saw for the races in the previous games. When it comes to race mechanics, I think we have been spoiled in Game 3. But I find it surprising and concerning that each lord has little to discern themselves from one another apart from a few bonuses to trade, diplomacy, army upkeep and unit stats. I understand of course that unique mechanics for 11 lords would have taken more resources, creativity and time, but in the long-term interests of the game and replayability for the base lords, I think it would have been well worth the investment. I don't think it would have been too difficult to give the base game lords something a little bit extra, even if they had systems that were adapted from mechanics we have seen added in Warhammer 2. I'm certain that when we do eventually get the first new set of legendary lords added to the game through a lord pack, we will have that jump in power that we often see with the release of a new DLC. We saw Ikit Claw come out swinging thanks to his Forbidden Workshop, interacting so well with the Skaven weapons teams. We saw Grom pound everything before him thanks to the insane bonuses that could be generated from a well-cooked meal. And we saw the unstoppable force that was Taurox, thanks to his broken momentum mechanic. I think we will see something similar again, and while balance may not be a major concern when it comes to mechanics, as this is primarily a single-player game, once you revisit the original lords that don't have their own systems after playing the newer ones, the campaigns often feel shallow. This has probably come across as a bit of an entitled rant, and perhaps I should be happy with what we are getting, but I have my concerns and I felt the need to get them off my chest. So there we have it, the base lords in Game 3, and the base lords for the pre-order pack are missing unique mechanics for each character after all the fantastic work that has come before. I think that's a shame. What are your thoughts on unique mechanics for individual lords? Will you miss them, or are you not too fussed by their absence? If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. The interaction will help this content reach a wider audience and hopefully help grow the channel. This video was brought to you with the help of my patrons. I'd like to thank Hot Apple Pie, Alexander and Solarith Magnetar. I'm Grey Tiger. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.